Ever wanted a Resident Evil game with no convoluted plot or story? Then say hello to
Mercenaries 3D.
Yes, what he said. As the name would suggest, this is the popular Mercenaries mode from Resident Evils 4 and 5, rolled into one and released at full price for the Nintendo 3DS. For those who are unaware of the Mercenaries, it's a third-person action game which involves the player, either solo or co-op, with a friend, put in an arena-style map with the task to kill as many enemies as possible, in the set time limit. You gain small time bonuses by performing melee moves on weakened enemies, or by smashing preset time locations to get larger amounts of time. So is what's essentially a minigame from Resident Evil 4 and 5 worthy of a full purchase? Well, yes and no. The main meat of the game is split into 5 main chapters, each with 3 to 5 levels. The first 2 chapters are pretty much training levels, from telling you the best place to shoot, which, yep, is still the head, to quite simply walking from place to place, in case you forget how to do that. Don't worry though, the difficulty soon ramps up and before long you'll be facing old Sackhead. Speaking of the walking, this marks the first time in the main series you can walk and shoot at the same time. Although I never found myself using this feature, as the circle pad is used for walking as well as aiming. Just moving the circle pad makes you walk, but holding down the right shoulder button lets you look down the sight, and now the circle pad is used to aim. You can then additionally hold down the left shoulder button, and the circle pad now makes you walk whilst you're still aiming. As you can imagine, it's rather clunky, and if, like me, you're used to the gameplay from the console versions, you'll forget it's even an option. What Mercenaries 3D does use very well is the touchscreen. As well as a makeshift map, it also shows your inventory, which means just touching another weapon swaps it out with ease. The same can be said for when using herbs to restore health. It makes a tight situation easier to deal with due to the easy to access items. Each of the 8 characters have their own weapon set, consisting of the usual handguns, machine guns, sniper rifles, and even the occasional grenade launchers. They can only carry up to 3 weapons, with the other 3 slots for grenades, herbs and the like. The characters themselves are a mixture of the past and present from the series. It's just strange that Leon and Sheva, 2 main characters from Resident Evil 4 and 5 respectively, are absent from the entire game, despite all the locations in the Mercenaries 3D being from said games. Each of the 8 characters become unlockable as you progress through the game, with only 2 to choose from when you start. You can unlock an alternate costume for each character, but some are impossibly hard to obtain. It hardly seems worth the effort. The characters themselves during gameplay look almost as good as the PS3 and 360 models. The enemies, while not quite as impressive up close, are still impressive for the handheld. Apart from slightly muddy textures, the main problem arising with Mercenaries 3D's graphics is its frame rate. While I never experienced any real slowdown, the enemies receive a really noticeable drop in frame rate when they're in the distance. While definitely not game breaking, it caught me by surprise, which initially put me off playing the game. Luckily it's something you quickly get used to, as it never becomes a hindrance during gameplay itself. Another big issue people are having with Mercenaries 3D is the fact that it only has one save file, which you can't delete. This really isn't a problem for me personally, but something the publishers Capcom are obviously using to combat the second-hand game market. I've heard that if you take the game out when it automatically saves, you can corrupt the data, causing it to reset the save file. However, I'd highly recommend you do not try this, due to the possible permanent corruption. You'd think that the enemies themselves are corrupted though, as one minute they're incredibly thick, seemingly avoiding you, the next they're swarmed and traps you in a corner. Especially the later levels when the game thinks, screw it, let's see how smart you are up against 2 executioners, regular enemies and a giant bat slug pussing mucus in your face, in 3D. Yes, this is the 3DS, so of course it's in 3D, which looks okay, nothing special. Not that it looks shoddy or anything, it's just, in the heat of the action you can easily forget it's even on, moving the system, causing the screen to go out of focus, and thus I just prefer to play with the 3D off. 3D isn't the only new thing for Mercenaries. You can now assign 3 different skills from a choice of 30 unlockables. Anyone who's familiar with the perk system from the Call of Duty series will know that these are upgradable add-ons and improve your character's stats, and Mercenaries 3D is no different. They range from simple improved gun handling to more interesting ones like higher critical hit ratio. So anyone looking for any real scares, you won't find it here. Although there is a playable demo of the 2012 release Resident Evil Revelations, which is said to bring the series back to its more chilling roots. However, while certainly freaky, it only lasts a disappointing 4 minutes. The thing is, it's hard to see who exactly Mercenaries 3D is aimed at. It's so similar to the mode that came with Resident Evil 4 and 5 that if you enjoyed them, then you might as well just save yourself 35 quid and not bother with the 3DS edition. I would personally only recommend Mercenaries 3D to people who are new to the series and enjoy third-person arcade-style shooters like Black Ops Zombies or Horde mode from Gears of War. Especially seeing as Mercenaries 3D features multiplayer co-op, online and local, which is some of the most fun I've actually had with my 3DS, even though the online does take a while to find someone. Despite its shortcomings, Resident Evil The Mercenaries 3D still features its addictive gameplay that the series has been known for, which translates surprisingly well to a handheld. While not essential, it's still a blast to play on your own or with some friends. 8 out of 10.